Hello again, it's April here, and today I've got a super long art-filled sketchbook bonanza. We're filling up this sketchbook in a month and we're using all of the materials from the last art haul. There's so much art, so much process and materials to talk about, so let's get into it. So I was gifted the Etches sketchbook about 3 months ago, and it took me so long to get around to it. And I actually have one on my shelf that I haven't opened yet because they are pricey and they're really kind of scary to draw in because the pages are so beautiful and you just don't want to ruin them. But seeing as this was a present and it was free, it gave me the freedom to kind of do what I want. I didn't have to worry about it too much. It's really tough to break in fancy sketchbooks, so if you ever have that feeling, you're not alone. So these are all of my beautiful art supplies that I got in my last art haul, and I kept them in this handy dandy container so I could pack them away when I wasn't using them. But to be fair, they were on my desk pretty much all month. So in this video, I'm going to use a whole bunch of them, and we're going to talk about the processes, some of the materials, my favorites, and I hope it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to start off with something a little chill for the first page. I'm basically going in with all of the materials. I wanted to see if I could use basically every material I had on this first page as a kind of test to see what goes with each other, what didn't go with each other. This was the first time I had used all of these materials after the swatching video. So up until this point, I had literally only swatched it and I hadn't mixed any of the materials together much. I also want to point out at some points I did layer up way too much. I scrubbed, I used a lot of water, I smushed things into the page, and the Etches sketchbook paper does hold up really well to that kind of pressure. At some points it did kind of peel off a little bit, but overall this paper was great for mixed media and I really put it through like a good workout. And this first page is from a reference photo from Keswick. We went there mid-October when all the leaves in the park were gorgeous colours, and Martin stood next to this tree and I thought they kind of matched. So I wanted to kind of throw everything at the page but also create like a nice opening autumny vibe page, even though we're now, in December. I'm still living for autumn. The only thing I would say about these colors that I used, like this whole color palette, all these materials, they were very muted, very like there weren't many bright colors, so it was kind of difficult to get the autumn vibes. And when I move on a little bit later to like more kind of gray or wintry pages or animals, I think the colors match that a lot better. This page I wasn't super happy with. I was just, like I said, I was just going for it. I was just mixing everything together. I think it's too many layers, too many colors, but for a first page, it did its job and we got warmed up. Some days I just wanted to use one or two materials together to kind of focus on those. And this was during an odd orange session where we did jungle animals and critters. And I used the pastels and my pencils for this. And I thought all of these colors worked so well together. The pastels are actually handmade. They're from a company called, well, I don't know if they're a company, but they're like a center called Florence Art Center. And the people who make them, their shop is called Florence Paintmakers. And these are all handmade using materials from the Lake District, which I think is so, so cool. This pastel tin is the Haze tin, and there's 3 shades that are all kind of light. There's Egremont red, St. Bees yellow, and Kirkby grey. Kirkby, or I think it's Kirkby. And I've been looking on their website because they are they're an art center and they have classes and things. They have exhibits. They are like an hour and a half drive away from me though, which is kind of a long way to go because they had like a demo on how they made and used the paints. And it was only half an hour. So to go an hour and a half just to see it and like maybe visit the shop or whatever and spend, another £100 on pastels and then a half an hour back would be kind of a long way. But if I'm ever on that side of the Lake District, because it's kind of like on the completely opposite side from us, I'm definitely going to pop in and have a look because I've really enjoyed these pastels. The paints also, which are coming up later in this video, I liked, but the pastels, obsessed with. I don't know if I'm just like super into pastels right now because I have soft pastels I have them, but I just don't use them. But these guys were so nice. Maybe it's the colors or the fact that they're made from, I don't know, the area that I live now and I love. Maybe it's that, but they were gorgeous. So I basically mixed them up. I used them as a base a lot, and then I popped on top some of the pencils. I had the light fast pencils, and I used a few of the markers there, but mainly it was the light fast pencils and the pastels. This is probably my favorite page. I don't do anything like this normally. It's very muted, very understated, very demure, very mindful. Are we doing that still? Oh God, I've just aged myself. I've just aged this video as well in popular culture. But I really love this page. I did kind of like this negative space, but not really, because I drew the branch, which is kind of cheating. And then I went all around and I did it with the pastel. And I can't remember how long we were drawing this picture for, maybe 10 minutes. I spent about 8 minutes just rubbing pastel into the page. Good use of my time, I think. So you can see I'm using my finger here. I do have a whole bunch of sponges, but I really like using my hands. I think it's really nice and tactile. The only problem comes when you've used all your fingers and then you use a new color and you have to look at your fingers like, what finger's clean to smudge here? Also, it really hurts after a while. Like, you get a really good muscular finger workout. I think I probably should look into my sponges though, because I think that might be cleaner. And also, I think I was using my hand in a previous video months and months ago, and someone in the comments said that the oil from I think it was using pan pastel though, not to put your fingers into the pan pastel, which I never do. I'm not sure if the oil from your hands affects the soft pastels at all when you're rubbing them in, but I mean, either way, I think hand or sponge, like, this is a really nice technique. And all the pencils went on really nicely. They kind of push the pastel out of the way, if that makes sense. So they don't really go over so much as kind of pushing the pastel out of the way so that you can kind of draw it onto the page. Either way, it's a nice technique. I really enjoyed it, and I think these colours went so well together. So I had a set of the Karin Luminance. I think I just got 5 colours, and this green that I'm drawing with right now, I used it so much over the month that I need to get a replacement. It's basically under half full, if you can believe that. The one material I didn't use much are these markers, and if you watch my whole video, you'll know that I said they're a little bit skinny for me, a little bit delicate. They will come up again, but they're probably my least used. But yeah, this was a super fun exercise just with these kind of 3 materials: pencils, pastels, and markers. I really enjoyed it. This page, I continued the jungle theme. I had done a little snake that I didn't record, and I really loved drawing it, so I thought I could just kind of fill up this page with a few little snakes. And I used the opportunity to try the markers as a background, and also the Derwent ink tense blocks, which are right there. They're the little blocks. I only had 3 of those. I actually only used them for this page, but I mean, they're just ink tense blocks. If you guys have used them before, seen other people use them, they're pretty chill. So I really like drawing this page. I think the reds and the purples didn't really go very well together, but I really love all the ones that have the yellow and the blue. I got super obsessed with using the neon marker. I mix it, I mean, I love neon, guys. I mix it in with paint. I put it under pencil. I smush it into other like colors and things. I think it just adds such a nice little glow to everything. And I've become super obsessed with the yellow. I used to really be into the neon pinks, but now I'm really into the yellow. And they go so nicely with the blues. So I basically just layered up different things on top of the markers here. So I was using a little bit of those watercolor markers, the pencils, which went over so nicely onto the paint pens, which were Molotow paint pens, I think Liquitex maybe. I'm going to put everything in the description this time, because I know that people wanted to know what everything was, and I was really lazy last time when I did the video. So I'm going to pop all of these materials in the description if you want to check them out. And someone also had an idea, I can't remember if it was on YouTube, but they said to make like a master list or a master video of all of my very, very favorite materials that I use, which I think is a super fun idea and it would be really helpful. So I'm going to try and do that. It's on the list. I have a huge list of like lots of videos and ideas of things I want to do, and it's just making time to get to them, but it is on the list. So yeah, this is just a simple doodle page. I can't really say much about it. It's just kind of like layering things on top of each other, using a little bit of water soluble stuff, using some pencils and different kind of pressures for the different areas. And that's about it. This one is going to be one of my favorite spreads. In my art haul video, I had that art graph block, this big chunky stick, on my desk, and I didn't swatch it. I actually completely forgot about it, and someone in the comments asked me about it. I realized I had forgotten about it, but I'm glad they asked, because they also asked if like what the difference was between this and the tub. So I thought I could use this page to kind of try both of them together and see what the difference is. If I was going to pick just one of these, like if I had to pick, I probably, after using them now, would pick the stick, because I think it's so much more versatile than the little tub. You can turn it on its side and you can get some really lovely fine lines. This is, of course, only brand new. I probably will have to use this a few times and to see if the point still stays. I'm pretty sure it's going to get blunt and I won't get that nice thin point anymore. But yeah, you could get some beautiful textures, really build up the colors there too, like in that chimney. But with the tub, and I didn't record this very well, I'm sorry, I was super getting into the picture. With the tub, all you can kind of do is put your paintbrush into it, or even your finger, and use it like a paint, like a water-soluble graphite, which basically is what it is. So if you do have the tub and you like the tub, I would definitely recommend getting the pencil, because I really enjoyed it. The texture of the pencil when it was dry was really nice, but especially when you kind of ran it through a wet area, it really shone. So on the left hand side, I just used the graphite, but on the right hand side here, I wanted to see what it was like with some color underneath it. So I used these paints here, the Gansai black paint, a little bit of my neon marker for the windows, and then I waited for that to, oh no, I didn't wait for it to dry. This was actually one of my favorite things to do, was to use all of the water soluble materials while the page was still wet. It gave you really good results a lot of the time. Sometimes it didn't work as well, or I could be a little bit heavy-handed and kind of mess up the page, but a lot of the times it worked really, really lovely. So you can see just how dark you can get that graphite, especially if the page was wet. And I just love all the different textures, all the different strokes it could make. You can turn it on its side, and yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to use this more in the future. I really loved it. I love the tub. Like, I've used maybe even half of the tub, but the stick was on a whole new level. I don't know if this is a new product. It was the first time I'd seen it, and I'm very happy I did. And look, I did 2 pages with this. I hardly made a dent. Like, I didn't even make a dent. The corners were still sharp. Imagine how long this graphite stick would last you. I think it's a little bit pricey. I'm not quite sure what the price is. I think it's maybe like £6. So it does seem a little bit pricey for like a fat pencil, but worth it, I would say. And then I kind of went over the top with a little bit more pencil line, kind of making it more of a mixed media piece. Tell me which side you like best. I think I like just the plain side on the left there, black and white and a bit of neon. I really wanted to see how that graphite pencil would mix with more paint on the page. So I used the same reference image. I'm obsessed with the backs of buildings, especially these groups of houses, which I take a photo of every time I walk past. I primarily use the Derwent XL blocks there, which are basically the same as the other XL blocks that I was using with the snakes, but they're really thick and chunky. So you can kind of use them as a paint palette, which is what I was using here. You can also draw with them. I did that a little bit in my swatch video. I picked them up and I kind of drew on the page, but I didn't actually do that in this video at all. I think mainly because I was just kind of really getting into it and I didn't even think to do it. And also they were really wet most of the time, and if I'd picked them up after kind of using my paintbrush on them, it would have been really messy. So you can use that as an option. I just didn't in this one. While the paint was still wet, I went in with the graphite pencil, kind of like what I did before. I used it mainly for the roofs or any dark areas like doorways and things. I used a tiny little bit of some coloured pencil there just to kind of brighten it up a little bit. Like I mentioned, a lot of these colours were very muted, so I just wanted to bring a little bit of a bright colour into it. And I really like this page too. I think these XL blocks are lovely. I just need to work with them a little bit more. I think right now, I don't think I've worked with them enough to know their full potential, but I think there could be a lot of layering, a lot of mixing, and especially picking up and just drawing with them. Like a lot of uses that you could do with them. But just using them last month, I really enjoyed it, and I would actually give them A+. So now we're going to slow it down so we can have a look at these handmade paint pigments. In my art haul video, I had a lot of suggestions on how to use these, so I'm going to try that in this video. These are handmade watercolor paints from the same company that made the pastels. And I didn't like them as much as the pastels, but they were fun to use. This color here, which is the Honistor green, was the most earthy of the lot. So it was the one, it kind of felt like dirt. And when I soaked it with water, later on I soaked them in water to see if I can get them to activate more. This turned into like a mud, while the rest didn't. And I found that really interesting. These are all used from different materials from the earth. A couple of people commented in my last video to use them like a pencil, which I did, and it was kind of fun. There were a few small problems, including a breakage. Like this one here, this is the only one that broke, and I think it's probably the softest of the lot, which is why it kind of turns into a mud when it's wet. Another suggestion was to soak them in water, which I have done before with my other like Gansai watercolors, and it does work really well. Look, you can see this is the consistency I was talking about. This is the only one that did it. All the other paints, even after soaking them for ages, leaving them in water, they didn't seem to absorb the water. The water just ran through them. Which I found really interesting. So like this one here, I mixed it for ages, and it still was just kind of like hard. It's not a problem. Some of the pigments were just a little bit stronger than others, which they're natural pigments, so it makes total sense. The ones that I really enjoyed, I did really like the Honistor green, which was the muddy one, even though it was a little gritty. And then this one here, which is the Egremont red. That one was really super bright and nice. So when they were dry, they left a little bit of residue on the surface of the page, but I just kind of wiped them away with a little bit of tissue, and then the pigment was left behind. I was a little bit worried about wiping the entire crocodile away, but I did leave a really nice soft pigment. So on the top of the page, you can see the two crocodiles, one on the left. That's the one where I drew onto the page, and you can see it's like a lot more textured, a lot more pigments left behind. The one on the right hand side with the yellow tail, I painted it on, so not so much pigment went on, and it's got less texture. It leaves behind a really beautiful, soft watercolor base, which I completely covered up with colored pencil. So sometimes I wonder why I bother even putting a base down, because I'm just going to cover it up. But I hope that it is all part of the process and it does add to the final image. I don't know why. I went to bed one night and I was almost half asleep, like just on the state of dreaming, you know, when you fall asleep. And I just suddenly said to Martin, I want to draw crocodiles. And I really wanted to draw crocodiles. So I woke up the next morning and I remembered and I drew crocodiles, and it was so fun. I have no idea why, but it just came to me, and I thought, hey, you got to listen to yourself when you're falling asleep, right? That's your subconscious, and it's telling me something, and it's telling me, April, you go out there and you draw some crocs. So I did. They were really fun. I used the pencils over the top. I just used my Karin Dash pencils and the light fast pencils, and I made a cute little page of crocodiles. And I popped them up on Instagram. They were very popular, so I'm very happy about that. I really want to draw some more crocodiles in the future, and maybe even, I don't know, move on to alligators. Who knows? We'll do the whole like reptile family. One thing I really loved about the light fast here is how it changed color as it went over different materials. You can kind of see in the bottom left of the belly, it goes really, really dark orange when it's kind of over the page, but then when it goes over a bit that has more pencil on it, it's a little bit softer because it's not picking up as much pigment. I love that. I think these light fasts are going to be amazing for layering. I really want to get more. I want to get so much. For the next spread, we're back to using all of the media, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I had some references. One was of this beautiful red tree, one was of a house in Kendall, and then for some reason, I just wanted to add a fox into the picture. So I made a teeny tiny thumbnail of how I thought the image could be. And I wanted to use another tool that we didn't get to use in the last art haul video. So I had to bring in some extra materials. I know, it's awful, but it had to be done because I wanted to use this really cool brush that I found in Casa. And all of the materials that I had weren't really suitable for it. So I used this paint as a base just so I could use that brush. This is the brush here. It's a big fat round brush. I don't know the name of it. I've just been calling it Marvin. But if you guys know the name of this brush, let me know. It made beautiful textured marks. I went round and round in circles and made myself dizzy. And I filled up the whole page. I kind of wanted a base that was a little bit moody, a little bit grey, a little bit wintry. I really wanted to do snowy scene. I actually didn't end up doing snow in the end. But I really like the base that this gave, and I think it gave the whole image like a really nice kind of starting point. It's funny though because by the end you don't even see this base. Again, I just colour over it, but it's there in spirit, I guess. So these pastels blended in seamlessly to that colour. One of the colours that I used for the base there, I think is called Unbleached Titanium. And the grey pastel really mixed in well with it. And I also used a lot of these beautiful Gansai paints that I got from Choosing Keeping, the Japanese watercolour paints. I have been told from people that have bought them that you can get them on Amazon, probably cheaper. But every time I go to Choosing Keeping in London, I have to treat myself, right? You have to buy something that's a little bit luxurious, that you feel a little bit bad for buying because it's expensive, but it just, every time you use it, you think, I treated myself and I feel good about it. And that's what these paints are. And as far as the composition goes, I knew that I wanted to have the house and I wanted to have that beautiful red tree. And I also wanted to put someone in the window, like a little girl in the window looking out. And I wanted her to be looking at something. So I thought the fox would fit in really nicely because it would kind of match the tree. And then those would be the two things that really pop. And then the background and everything else would be kind of greens and blues and greys, but everything really muted. So it looks very wintry. So at this point, I was definitely getting out of my autumn phase, even though we have a red tree there, and getting into my winter phase, which I'm now currently in. I really want to do some lovely winter scenes. It's raining here. It's absolutely pouring down outside. I'm hoping for snow this month. We got it last December, but honestly, I think we're just going to have rain this year. So I may just have to draw myself some snow because I don't think I'm going to be seeing any. Using that beautiful green pencil again. I think it's called Light Malachite Green. And it's such a gorgeous pencil. It goes over so well on the paints. And I really enjoyed this color. I think it kind of brings everything together. It goes over the yellow really well, like there. It kind of has a green hue. Then when it's over the black or the grays, it has a really lovely kind of blue tint. So I think having that pencil actually helped a lot with all of these spreads in this book. If I didn't have that kind of aqua color to bring everything together, I think some of these pages would have turned out a lot differently. And I didn't even know that that was going to happen because all these materials I had collected over about 3 months, I didn't know they were all going to go together so well. I guess I'm just a genius, guys. I also snuck in there with a pastel. I didn't talk about that, but I did sneak in there with the pastel and add some pops of colour. I kind of tried to keep a nice balance in the page. So I put a big patch of colour where I knew the tree was going to go, so it would pop against that dark trunk. And then some others on by the house, like little bits. And now I'm just drawing the trees in the background. So I know that I wanted there to be a really nice dark black tree in the foreground, which would kind of balance against the roof. So in the background of the painting, I did lots of muted tones. The greys, purples, and blues so that the tree would stand out in the foreground. Honestly, I rarely think about things this much, but it was really fun. I actually gave my brain a bit of a workout. And now I'm just doodling a little girl because I couldn't figure out why. I didn't know what I wanted her to look like, so I'm just drawing her out. And then I took away that frame. It just came away really nicely so I could draw the girl on top. And now we're coming to the tree in the foreground. I did this as a guide. I was actually going to go over the top with pencil, but I really loved how rough the lines were, and the texture kind of complemented all the soft pastel. So I left it like that. I think I filled in a little bit of the bottom trunk, but I left the top branches as they were. And then it was time for this tree in the background. And this tree in the background is the one thing that I don't like about the whole image, which is kind of a shame because it really stands out. I started off not knowing what color branches to do. I didn't want to do black because I thought black would be too bold. So I used this kind of ochre pencil, but then the ochre didn't really go in well, like it kind of didn't stand out from the tree. I overthought it a little bit and I moved on. I just kind of like moved around the page. I do this quite a lot. You'll see me kind of just go from one part of the page to another part. And that's because I'm waiting for pencil to dry or because I just don't know what I'm going to do. So at this point I was like, okay, you know what? I need to make this tree stand out. And I really did not like what I did here. I used one of the Derwent Inktense pencils I have to kind of brighten it up. And I added in those little dots. And I think this gave that part of the page way too much detail. You don't really want your eyes to go there. I kind of wanted the eye, I wanted, maybe you see the fox first because he would poke out. You'll see at the end, like he really stands out against the dark. And then the fox would kind of take you up the path to the girl in the window, is what I was imagining like that your eye would do. And then the tree was just kind of there to give the page balance, and I thought it was a nice pop. But I don't like how the tree turned out in the end. I did try and fix it a little bit, you see, with the pastel there. I just don't think it really fits. Every time I look at the page now, I just think, oh, that tree. But overall, I really love this spread. The fact that I used the old imagination and the old noggin to put it together. And I love the colours. I think it's really cute. And I think I might try and make a print from it or something. So let me know if you'd be interested in that. So we're now going to take a little interlude where I'm going to fill up the two palettes that I got. So these pages will probably be the brightest pages of the entire video. If you guys saw my art haul video, you would have seen this tiny little tin that I thought could make a really cute mini watercolor palette. So I never use watercolor. I do have some. I have been through phases over the last few years where I'll use them, but these days I rarely use them. I don't have the patience for them, and I feel like it's a medium that you need to be quite delicate, and I don't know, just it doesn't really feel like it would suit, like it matches me. But I do like watercolor and I have a bunch. So I figured rather than just let them waste away, let's put them in a little palette and maybe I can take them out on a walk and try to use them. Let me just start with the colors. I wanted to go for a color palette like the normal color palette, red, yellow, blue. And I went through different colors to try and decide what type of color palette I wanted. I ended up going with the really bright ones and then popping in a Payne's Gray so I could kind of mute those colors. But the problem is, and you'll see it at the end, it's too small. The paintbrush is too small. The watercolors are too small. And I just can't see me using it, but I'm going to try because I think it's a really cute idea. One that I think I will use is this. And I actually have used it since this. And that's this. It's like a 16 or 18 palette, little mini stay wet sealed job. And I filled it up with gouache, not acrylic gouache, which I know people have done, and apparently it does stay wet, but acrylic gouache is expensive, and I was worried. I know that even if my gouache dries, I can still use it. So I went through my old palette that I have already filled up, like I already went through the process, and I just picked my favorite colors from those. And now I decided to test them out. So I tested them out on a couple of ducks. These are ducks. I completely forgot the name, but I popped them on. I think they're called ruddy ducks. And I found a picture on, I think it was on TikTok. It was like a video from RSPB. And these ducks are so cool and I got so excited. I went to find out where I could see them. Like if they were in a nature reserve in the UK, I would go visit them. But it turns out they're not in the UK. They're only in, I think they were Canada, North America, that kind of area. So if you live in that part of the world and you have seen a ruddy duck, let me know because they look so cool. So I was so sad about the fact that I couldn't go visit them and take photos of them and stalk them and be a creep with my binoculars, that I decided to just draw them instead. So I drew the same picture twice, one with the watercolor palette on the left, one with the gouache palette on the right. And I'm going to tell you right now, the gouache is a winner for me. It's bright. I love the way it works. It's a bigger palette. You can use a bigger brush. And I just really enjoy gouache. I think the colors are really fun and I love the medium. Watercolor to me, I don't know, even though it's very similar, it just feels a little bit too sophisticated for me. And the colors that I chose, because I didn't have a palette, and I don't even know how I would use this on a walk, because you'd have to mix it on the page. They didn't really mix on the page very well. They all were kind of muddy. Yeah, I didn't really like it very well, but it's not a problem. I used them as a base, and then I got out some pencils and some markers, and actually, after I went over the ducks with the markers and stuff, I did like both pages. I still preferred the more colourful gouache page, but anything can be saved with a good pencil. I guess. I mean, is that a good mantra to follow? I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to show you how I filled up the palettes up. This is a really quick one. It's just like a few minutes. I didn't want this to be a whole big deal because a lot of people out there are really great with mixing paints and making palettes and stuff. I'm more of a kind of shove everything on the desk and then just pick things at random and hope they work. Oh, that was, by the way, that was just me writing out quack to make sure that I spelled it right. I did. In my head, it was spelled right. I just wanted to double check. Okay, guys? Jeez. So the next spread is going to be a landscape, and it's also one of my favorite spreads from this sketchbook. I'm going in with a mix of the pastels, the paints, and the XL blocks. Basically a smorgasbord. It's another mixed media sketch. I think it's the only thing I'm not using in this are the markers and the like felt tip thingies, the watercolor markers. Also, guys, just a quick check-in. If you're still watching, I commend you. This is a long video. If you think it's long watching it, you should have tried editing it. The voiceover alone is killing me. But I hope that you're enjoying it. Give me a thumbs up if you are enjoying it up to this point. That would be lovely. So I also want to point out, the elephant in the room. Guys, I know I said that this video took me a month to make. Like I basically filled up the sketchbook in a month. It was more like 3 weeks. It did. But I have been editing this video for about 3 days now. And I've noticed that in every single one of the shots, I'm wearing the same pajamas. Now, look, I could just lie to you and say that I put these pajamas on every time I filmed so that the video would have continuity. But really, these are my comfy indoor winter pajamas. And I when I finish work, I normally get into these or another pair of equally comfortable pajamas. Not as fashionable though. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, okay? Those are my fashion choices for this video. Now, moving on. Currently I am just, it looks like I'm just smushing some colours onto the page. Using a whole bunch of those different colours. This was taken again late October. I think it was about the same time we did the very first page, if you remember, with that beautiful red tree. This was the same day. So the trees were beautiful colours. There was some gold, some green, some reds. Like I said before, I don't have those colours because this is quite a muted colour palette, but I did my very best. I would like to now give my recommendations for best colour. And best colour goes to XL. The XL blocks is that greeny gold colour, which went with everything. I will try and pop the names down below. The names were on the block. If you watch my art haul video, you'll see it was on the block. I would have erased that by now from painting onto the block. But I really loved that colour. Another colour that I really liked was the blue paint. So it's the black, but it's like black blue. and it's that color there that's like in the water. That was gorgeous, mixed in with a little bit of the XL blue block as well, because that was a little bit more saturated. So they kind of paired together really nicely to create a really moody, stormy blue. So what I'm painting right now are cat bells. If you guys have been to the Lake District, maybe you've seen these. They're up near Keswick. They're quite, this hill fell is quite famous. I think maybe because of the shape. I'm not sure. We've walked up it. It's a really lovely walk. It's a very popular walk in the Lake District. It's gorgeous, gorgeous views from the top. And they have do this thing every winter. They do it, I think, it's every winter because it gets dark. They go up to the top of the fell and they all wear torches or headlamps, and there's a huge procession. You can join it, so you can like sign up to join it, and basically it's a big walk up in the dark up to the top of these hills, and they line all the top of the hills. So if you just imagine like a night sky, all of this is dark, you can kind of see the mountain that's a little bit dark in the sky, and then all the way across like the contour of the mountain is a string, a line of beautiful lights in the dark. I'll see if I can insert a picture of what it looks like. We've been here for 3 years and we haven't been. We keep meaning to go, but we haven't been yet. Martin really wants to take a photo of it, but I really want to be in it. Like, I want to do the walk, but Martin wants to be like on the other side taking a photo. So maybe one year we'll go and we'll do the walk, and the next year we can go so he can take some photos. But if I ever go up there, I'll definitely try and film some for a little video, because I think it would be such a cool thing to be part of and to see. But this was done in the daylight. This was actually done, like, I think it was sunset. It was so pretty. They have a private island, which is what I'm doing, which is what I'm coloring in right now, where that little boathouse is. And I think maybe you can even rent it for parties and things. It's very fancy. And look, guys, did I tell you or did I not tell you that this pencil brings everything together? Like, if you skip back in the video a couple of seconds and then skip back again to here, you'll see the difference that pencil makes. I think it just brings everything together. It's such a nice color. And I think, I mean, do I have to use it in every painting from now on? Maybe. Maybe it's a sign. I'm definitely going to have to buy some more because it's basically gone now. So I basically did the trees multicolored. From the photo, you can probably see that there weren't aqua trees or pink trees. And sometimes I pick colors based on what I like, what I'm into at that time. This one I purely just had to pick the colors from the color palettes I had because I was just using these materials. But even if I had the choice to pick colors, I probably would pick very similar colors to what I did. The tree section there is almost like what my perfect color palette would be if I could pick one. It's all of the colors that I go for. It's like the green, gold, the aqua, the pink, the orange. That for me is literally perfection on the page right there. Also, I did cheat a little bit again. I got my art graph white block thingy because I didn't have any whites in this palette. That's one thing that I didn't have, was a nice white. I had grey pastel, but it really wasn't hitting the spot. And I also had like a pink white and a yellow white pencil. But sometimes you just need a bright white. So I grabbed that, and I love the texture of it when you drag it across the page like that. So we're almost at the end. I'm just doing some details now. So the trees there, just kind of picking some darker colors so they pop against the lighter colors. And then if these trees were dark, I would do the opposite. I would pick a lighter color to go against the dark. And then here I'm doing the little path down cat bells, which is, I didn't talk much about the image. I just kind of rambled a little bit, but I hope that you enjoyed the process and you can kind of see some of my choices that I made with like the contrast and the composition. So that's that page done. Let's move on. We have now come to the last couple of pages, and I wanted to have something a little bit chill. This was actually done on December 1st. I really wanted to get this sketchbook done in November. It took me from November 5th to December 1st, so it's still technically done within a month, which I'm very happy with. And I wanted to do something very relaxed, very chill, not like a huge landscape. So I went back to my absolute favorite birds, and I did some little pigeons. And for the last page, I also wanted to use my favorite materials, which turned out to be this combo. which is the Derwent XL blocks mixed with those black paints. I think the black paints are really beautiful. On their own, I think they would make a gorgeous scene, especially something really moody. But for me, I need a little bit more saturation and a little bit more color variation. And I think the combo of both of them together works really well. You get those gorgeous muted blacks, and you also get the watercolor and how that kind of moves, because it does move a little bit differently. And then you get like the pops of color from the XL blocks. I did pigeons, and I also thought I could do this page almost like a feed two birds with one scone kind of situation, because I needed to have some little images done for Burbfest. You will see all of these birds popping up on Instagram over the next month. They're going to be a little bit different because I took them into Procreate and I fixed them up a little bit. This is really nice, but I do think it was a little bit dull for me. I wanted to have a bit more color. Me and color, honestly. Can you imagine me ever doing black and white? I would literally cry. Even that black and white building that I did earlier in the video, I had to like put neon yellow into. And I'll just quickly plug Burbfest. It's going to be a challenge that is going to be on Instagram in January. I'm going to do a video about it closer to the time, and we'll probably have a little live stream. And it's basically a challenge where you draw one bird a month for the entire month of January. It's going to be my 3rd year hosting it, and it was originally created by Birdie Tam. I'm sure a lot of you know Birdie Tam. She's a really great artist. She does really cool ceramics. I'm going to be hosting it again next year, which is going to be super fun. So if you guys are up for a little challenge to kind of get you started, please go over and check it out on Instagram. I've got a post up there, and I'll be posting throughout the month more about it. The prompt list is going to go up mid-December, so you'll have a couple of weeks to get prepared over the holidays. And that's all. So I hope that this video is good. I get asked about my processes a lot, and you know, how I pick colors and everything. I don't like really go super in depth about it, because a lot of the way that I work is just kind of, I find it quite intuitive. Like, it's just stuff that I've done over the years. I do a lot of experimentation, a lot of trial and error. I just find things that I like, find things that I don't like. When I talk about like processes and how my thought process and how I think about things, I find it really difficult to sometimes put that into words. But I did try for this one, so I hope that it was helpful. If you do have any other questions though, please leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. But yeah, I'll just leave you with these last little pidgeys, and then we'll get out of here, I guess. So to end, I thought we could have a little sketchbook tour. Like I said, I finished this on December 1st, so I think it took like 27 days, something like that. Didn't think I mean, I was hoping I'd finish in a month, but I'm very surprised that I did. So here we go, sketchbook tour time. This was the first page. There may be some pages in here that you haven't seen, like this robin page. And then we have the odd orange pastel jungle session that always takes up so many pages because we draw so much in those sessions. So if you're looking for something to fill up a sketchbook quick, those are great. I don't know if you saw this page here with all the jungly things. Then we got all of the snakes, graphite buildings, which I really loved doing. This one here, which, you know, I think some people in there would be really nice. And then I think these were from the original art haul video where I was testing out the materials. Yeah, there's just like a lot of messy swatch pages here. I made a mistake. This page is my ruddy ducks. The other ducks were just regular ducks. There's my little fox page that I really like as well. Yeah, these ducks here, I think these were different ducks. Oh, never mind. A duck is a duck, right? Don't tell them I said that. And then the next few spreads were from my last video where we did the little walk, and I actually do use these materials in that video as well, if you haven't checked that one out. Oh, I love this page. This is one of my favorites. I actually have never used materials like this before, just using just materials for an entire month, and I think it was super fun. So that's the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite materials were, if you're going to grab any for yourself. If you are still here, thank you so much. And if you did enjoy this video and would like to watch more in the future, don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.